يا أهل الجنة إن ربكم تبارك وتعالى يستزيركم فحي على زيارته.
Before we begin, you can remind me where we stopped last week? Without looking at the notes. You're lucky we don't do tests. You'd have been in trouble. Okay, due to time, inshallah, I'll jog your memory. We stopped on, we're still on the chapter of ghusl. Of course, Zach, you weren't here, so I don't blame you. Yeah, so we stopped on the chapter of ghusl, and we spoke about the compulsory acts of ghusl, what necessitates ghusl, and so on. All the fara'id, and how one should be taking the ghusl according to Sharia. Now we got to this chapter of the sunnahs of ghusl. The sunnah of ghusl. So we done the fara'id, and just like wudu, there's the fara'id of wudu or the arkan of wudu, and then we spoke about the sunnahs of wudu, right? Now same as ghusl, we said it's the purificatory bath. And just to quickly just jog our memories, we said that this ghusl is wajib, it is fard upon it is fard or it is wajib due to 6 reasons. 3 which were specific to men, and 3 which were specific to both men and women, and 3 which were specific to women alone. Okay, women alone. And we said the 3 which make it necessary for both the man and the woman to perform ghusl. Let me see if we can put it up for you over here. No. Okay, yeah. So we said over here. So we said there were 6 causes of performing the ghusl. 3 for both men and women, and 3 for women alone. So we said 3 for both, which were intercourse, of course, and we discussed what that meant. Both man and woman have to perform ghusl. Then we spoke about, we said the next reason that made it fard for both of them to perform ghusl is the ejaculation of sexual fluid. Now we said that this sexual fluid can occur with or without intercourse, because you can have intercourse without ejaculation, and you could have ejaculation without intercourse. And the third was death. Both man and woman, any of you pass away, ghusl becomes fard upon you. And then we said 3 which were specific to women alone, and these were hayd, which we'll speak about inshallah in a bit more detail when we get to the chapter, and nifas likewise, and giving birth. And can anyone remember the difference between hayd, between nifas, so postnatal bleeding, and just giving birth? Do you remember the difference, Imad, by any chance? Oh, Zach, do you know the difference? Yeah, so difference, we said both of them relate to giving birth. So postnatal bleeding is obviously once you've given birth, the blood that follows after that, that's called damun nifas. And it has its rulings and so on. And just giving birth, we said that there are some women who, when they give birth, they don't bleed. So just the concept of just you giving birth, it necessitates the shower or the ghusl. Okay, so the sunnahs of ghusl today, again, so the Musannif, rahimahullah, he says, where are we? Naam, yes, so he, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, وَسُنَنُهُ خَمْسَةُ أَشْيَاءَ. So the sunnah acts of ghusl are 5. We'll read the Arabic and then inshallah we'll just explain them one at a time. So the first one he says is at-tasmiyah, which is to say Bismillah. Second, al-wudu'u qablahu, so to do the wudu before it. وَإِمْرَارُ الْيَدِ عَلَى الْجَسَدِ, and passing the hand over the body, meaning like to rub, you could say. And then wal-muwalat, continuity, and taqdeem al-yumna, preceding the right over the left. So first one, he rahimahullah, he says it is sunnah before you begin your ghusl, so your fard ghusl, your sunnah, it is sunnah to say Bismillah. Like with many other things, when we begin, we start with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But obviously remember, if you're in a place where the name of Allah is not to be mentioned, so the bath is mixed with the toilet and so on, you just say it in your heart. You don't utter it out loud. Second, he says, is doing full wudu before the ghusl. Okay, so before you perform the ghusl itself, and we're talking about the fard ghusl here, it is sunnah. It is sunnah for us to actually do ghusl with the intention of sunnah ghusl before the ghusl itself, and you perform wudu as if you're about to go for salah. That same wudu. And then the third point he mentions, rahimahullah, is rubbing of the body. Yes, so when you're performing the ghusl itself, rub your body. It is sunnah, but according to Imam Malik, rahimahullah, this is actually fard. You have to rub the body. Even when performing wudu, according to Imam Malik, you must rub the body properly. And then he mentions number 4, wal muwalat, so continuity. Don't just intend to perform ghusl, wash the head, jump out, wait a bit, and then go back in, wash the rest of the body and so on. So it should continuously flow. The ghusl should be continuous, just like wudu. If you can remember, this was one of the sunnahs of wudu as well. And then number 5, he mentions washing the right before the left. So when you're performing the ghusl, you start on the right hand side, meaning once you've performed your wudu and so on, and you're in the bathtub or in the shower cabin or whatever, and you're about to pour water or you're about to let the water fall on you from the shower, clean the right hand side first, then the left, and then the rest of the body from the head. And 2 or 3 more things, or 2 things which the Musannif didn't mention, which I think are worthy of mentioning over here, is doing it 3 times. Okay, so pouring water over your body over the right hand side once, and then on the left, and then the head. So the first time being for fard, and then the second and the third time you do it for sunnah. Okay, so pouring water over the whole body 3 times, and if we follow this order of right and left, it's even better to do so. And the last point is to do khilal of the hair and the beard. Who remembers what khilal is? What is khilal? We mentioned it in wudu. No, not exactly, no. So khilal was to pass fingers like through the beard like this. Or like when you do khilal of the fingers, remember we said to wash in between, to brush your hair, so making sure fingers go through the hair and so on. This is also from the sunnahs of performing al-ghusl. Now, after this, the Musannif, rahimahullah, he mentions the different types of baths. Okay, different types of baths, and he mentions 17 types. I'll quickly just read the Arabic, inshallah we'll go through all of them properly. So first one, the Musannif, he says, فَصْلٌ وَالْإِخْتِسَالَاتُ الْمَسْنُونَةُ سَبْعَةَ عَشَرَ غُسْلًا. So he says there's 17 masnoona, 17 sunnah baths, type of baths, and then he lists all of them down. And it's not limited to this alone, but he begins with Ghuslul Jum'ah. So we'll read them one at a time. Okay, so he said, first one, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, Ghuslul Jum'ah. So the shower or the bathing of al-Jum'ah. Now, according to the madhab, it's anyone who intends to go for the salah or to the salah of Jum'ah, this bath of theirs becomes, or this bathing of theirs becomes sunnah. Okay, and be it the Jum'ah salah is fard upon you or not. Who can give me an example of when Jum'ah salah is not fard upon you? Jazakallah khair. Yeah, when you're a traveler, yeah? Because obviously if you're probably thinking, if you're ill, for example, No, that won't count anyway, because you wouldn't want to go, or you wouldn't be going. But with this, if it's fard, if it's sunnah, you intend to go to the salah, it becomes sunnah for you to perform ghusl, and its time is after Fajr enters. Okay, so to actually intend for this sunnah bath is as soon as Fajr Sadiq begins, so the actual true Fajr begins, you can intend to perform the ghusl of Jum'ah, for you to be rewarded for that. But obviously according to other ulama, if I'm not wrong, Imam Malik rahimahullah, he says that shower of yours or that bathing of yours has to be linked to the salah. So as close as you can to the salah, it has to be done at that time. Then obviously with work and so on, it's difficult. But for those of us, alhamdulillah, working from home, we can take full advantage of this. Yeah, so take your break, I don't know, half an hour, 15 minutes before the salah, and do what you have to do. And then the next two, he says, wal eidain. So number 2 over here is wal eidain. Both Eid salahs. So it's sunnah to perform ghusl on these 2 days. And the difference between this and the Jum'ah salah is that with Jum'ah, the ghusl is linked to the salah itself. But with Eid, the ghusl is linked to the day. Okay, the day of Eid itself. Because its time begins at midnight. So as soon as midnight comes in of Yawmul Eid, it is permissible for you to perform ghusl with the intention of sunnah for Eid. And then the Musannif rahimahullah, he mentions wal istisqa. Wal istisqa, which is the drought prayer. Okay, alhamdulillah, well I can say alhamdulillah, we've not really experienced it over here. If I'm not wrong, I think 2 or 3 years back or last year or something, when it was extremely hot and it wasn't raining, I think some ulama or some scholars went out and they actually performed this salah to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for rain. So the drought prayer is where there's not been rain for so long and it's just complete sun and so on. You go out and you seek rain from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, when we get to Kitāb al-Salah, we'll discuss that in more detail. And then here, rahimahullah, he mentions wal khusuf wal kusuf. Okay, wal khusuf wal kusuf. So the solar and the lunar eclipse prayers. When it gets to the time of these prayers, it's sunnah for us to perform a bath or have a shower in that case. And inshallah we'll talk more about these salahs when we get to them, because these are they're performed in a different way to your regular salah. Next sunnah is after washing a dead body. It is sunnah for the one who has washed the body for them to perform ghusl as well. And then he mentions, I didn't even read the Arabic. Yeah, وَغُسْلُ مِنْ غُسْلِ الْمَيِّتِ. And then the number 7. Okay, I've got the numbers wrong. But number 7, he mentions وَالْكَافِرُ إِذَا أَسْلَمَ. So when someone becomes a new Muslim, so when someone accepts Islam, it is sunnah for them to perform this ghusl. It becomes sunnah for them to perform this ghusl. But obviously if they are in the state of janaba, for example, from whatever or for whatever reason, then it becomes a must for them to perform al-ghusl. Next he mentions after that, so wal-majnoon wal-mughma alayhi idha afaqa. So he says, or the one who was mentally ill and regains consciousness, or the one who has fainted and then he regains consciousness. So these two again, it is sunnah for them to perform ghusl, because if you can remember, we said Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was a time he fainted, and when he got up, he performed wudu. He fainted again, he woke up again, and he performed wudu again. So it becomes sunnah to perform it during this time. And then Next one is when one intends to wear al-ihram. So, where are we with the Arabic? Naam. وَالْغُسْلُ عِنْدَ الْإِحْرَامِ. So, I'm sure many have performed Umrah. So those who have performed Umrah, when it gets to the time of putting the Ihram, or just before wearing Al-Ihram, it is sunnah for you to perform ghusl. It is sunnah for you to perform ghusl before you wear the Ihram. Assalamu alaikum. It becomes sunnah for you to wear the Ihram. Next is the Musannif, he says, turn this camera off. Next, the Musannif, rahimahullah, he says, وَلِدُخُولِ Makkah. So when you're entering Makkah to perform Hajj or Umrah, he says it becomes sunnah for someone to actually perform al-ghusl. And then after that, he says, وَلِلْوُقُوفِ بِعَرَفَةٍ. Standing on Mount Arafah. So on the day of Arafah, so the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, when one intends to go out and stand on the Mount of Arafah, it becomes sunnah for them to actually perform ghusl again. So to perform al-ghusl. Next is walil mabit bi Muzdalifah. Staying the night at Muzdalifah. But this is not the mu'tamad according to the madhab. So according to the madhab of Imam Shafi'ī, this is not the most relied upon opinion. But obviously we've had to put it there because we're going through the book itself and the author, he mentions it. So, but this is not according to the mu'tamad due to difficulty. Because obviously the standing of Arafah and then going to Muzdalifah, they're in such close proximity, it becomes difficult for someone. And then he, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, وَلِرَمْيِ الْجَمَرَاتِ الثَّلَاثِ. So, the days of Jamarat, obviously we know the days of Ayam Tashriq, so 11, 12, 13th of Dhul Hijjah, when you go to stone the shayateen on the first day, second day, third day, each day it becomes sunnah for you to actually perform ghusl. And then the next one he mentions is Walid Tawaf. Again, this is not from the mu'tamad opinion. This is not from the agreed upon opinion in the madhab, obviously because due to difficulty. It becomes very difficult for one to do so. Next he says, وَلِلسَّعْيِ. And the last one, وَلِدُخُولِ مَدِينَةَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. So he says, performing sa'i, again this falls into the same category of tawaf and staying in Muzdalifah. And he mentions the last but not least, entering into the city of Medina, it becomes sunnah for us to perform ghusl. So these are all the masnoona ikhtisalat which the Musannif has mentioned. So when any of us intend any of these, make sure you have the intention. Otherwise you're not rewarded. It's just going to be like any other bath. Any other bath. Tayyib. Now, the chapter of wiping over the socks. Masḥ ala al-khuffayn. Controversial one. Yeah, very, very controversial. But inshallah we'll touch on it as much as we can, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And remember, before even going into it, we're discussing it according to the madhab of Imam Shafi'ī. Okay, the ruling I am going to give is according to the madhab of Imam al-Shafi'ī. So, this chapter, the Musannif rahimahullah, he could have, or it probably would have been better if he linked it to wudu rather than ghusl. Because this chapter itself is linked to wudu. Because you perform masah or masah ala al-khuffayn during wudu, not after ghusl. Sah? But then again, it could be because he's linked it to the next chapter, which is at-tayammum, which is wiping as well. So, regardless of whatever or why he done this, rahimahullah ta'ala, we will go through the text. So, in this chapter, inshallah, we'll go through 5 main things. Number 1, the permissibility. Okay, we'll touch on the permissibility of wiping over the socks. Is it permissible, is it not, and so on. And with regards to this, we know that it's permissible from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Masḥ ala al-khuffayn it is sunnah and it is thabit from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is thabit from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from all three possible ways of approval. Number one, he performed it himself. Yes. Number two, he's spoken about it, that you can do it. And number three is iqrar, whereby the companions have done it in front of him and he's approved of it. He's not rebuked them, he's not told them you cannot do it and so on. So these three types of permissibility are both there. And we know, are all there. And the Prophet ﷺ, he did this as a resident and as a traveler. Yeah, as a muqim and as a musafir. And another important thing is this, Imam Bayhaqi rahimahullah, he mentions about 10, he says that the 10 who are guaranteed Jannah, they all narrate that it is permissible. You have other companions who say, like Ibn Hajar, ulama like Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, where he says about 80 companions have narrated this. So this shows the acceptance, the permissibility and the strength of this act. And on top of it, this is actually mentioned in books of Aqidah. If you believe it or not, the mas'ala of wiping over the socks, when I say the socks, I mean the khuf, the leather socks, is mentioned in books of Aqidah. Because this is just to refute those who go against it, and mainly it's the Shia, who go against the mas of the khufain, and to my knowledge the Mu'tazila also, and the Khawarij. Yeah, so this is why it's been mentioned in books of Aqidah. Next, she's going to speak about the ruling of it, meaning is it fard, is it sunnah, and so on. When is it sunnah, when is it mustahab, and the likes. And then the conditions. What permits someone to do or to perform masah. Then the permissible duration. You can't just keep them on for weeks and months and not take them off and just put masah over it and so on. You can't do that. There's a specific duration which we will touch on inshallah. And those things which nullify wiping over the socks. So we'll start off. So inshallah, we've already spoken about the permissibility. What's going on here? Okay, khair. So the Musannif rahimahullah, he mentions, if we read the Arabic first, he says, Faslun wal-mashu ala al-khuffayn jaizun bi thalathati shara'it. So to begin with, he says that performing mash over the socks, it is permissible with three conditions. Yeah, with three conditions. Now before we even mention those conditions, the ulama, they say the fact that he has said it is jaiz, it shows that washing the feet is better. Okay, there is ikhtilaf between the ulama whether what is better, rukhsa or azima. Where you have rukhsa to do something, is that better, or for you to do the asl, the default, is that better? For example, if you're traveling during Ramadan, yeah, is it better for you to fast or to break your fast? Or if you can perform masah, is it better for you to perform masah or for you to take your socks off, and so on? What would be better? What do you think would be better? If you're traveling, to fast or not to fast? To fast? Not to fast.
Because it makes your journey easier and it's not compulsory. I think Allah wants your journey to be safe and easy for you.
Okay, good point, mashallah. So the brother said it's better not to fast because the journey becomes easier upon you, and so on, isn't it? And that as well, that reminds me of hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, he said to the nearest meaning, they were on a journey and some of the companions, basically he saw some companions encircling other companions that were collapsing on the floor. Why? Because they were fasting and they couldn't hack it. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, it's better to break your fast to the nearest meaning. He said basically what these guys are doing, this is not taqwa. Yeah, this is not taqwa, meaning to break the fast during that time is better. But saying that, according to the Shafi'ī madhab, fasting is better. So according to the Shafi'ī madhab, the principle is the azima or the asl is better than the rukhsa. Okay, so if you can fast, you know it's not going to give you any hassle, it's not going to give you any problems, not going to weaken you. Bismillah, walillahi alhamd. You don't have to make up another day afterwards, even though you'll get the full reward for it as well. And according to other schools, for example, Imam Abu Hanifa, he says it's better that you don't fast. And if I'm not wrong, I think Imam Ahmed says the same thing. Better that you don't fast. But according to our school, it's better that you do fast. So, wal-mas, again over here, remember this is only permissible in wudu. Okay, wiping over the socks is only for wudu, not for ghusl. Be it sunnah wudu, fard wudu, and the likes. So, he says that, rahimahullah, so there's 3 conditions. Yeah, so what are these 3 conditions? He says, rahimahullah ta'ala, أن يبتدئ لبسهما بعد كمال الطهارة. This is the first one. Okay, this is the first one. The khuffain, the socks, they must be worn upon tahara. So these leather socks, you must have completed wudu, fully washed up to both your feet, and then you put the socks on. Okay, and then you put the socks on. Because someone might ask, but who's going to do something else other than that? You'll have some, they will get to their feet when it comes to wudu. Once they wash the right foot, they put the sock on, and then they'll wash the left foot, and then they'll put the sock on. For this individual, they cannot perform masah. Because, who can tell me why? Why can't he perform wudu? Yeah, exactly. Simple. He didn't complete wudu. He put one sock on before completing al-wudu. So it must be worn upon complete tahara. So likewise, before completing, say you complete your wudu and before you put the socks on, you break your wudu for whatever reason, you have to perform wudu again before you perform masah, or before you put them on. And then the second one he mentions, rahimahullah, وأن يكون ساترين لمحل الغسل الفرد من القدمين. So it must cover the whole foot. So the foot the place which is fard to wash, you must cover that part with the ghusl. So for example, ankle socks these days, you cannot use these. Even though they're so thin themselves, which we'll touch on next inshallah, but if socks don't cover the ankle, it is not a must. It's not permissible for you to perform masah. And if you perform masah, it is not valid. It will not be accepted. And then next he says, وَأَنْ يَكُونَ مِمَّا يُمْكِنُ تَتَابُعُ الْمَشِي عَلَيْهِمَا. In short, I said must be thick. But the translation for that, he says, they must be such or to such an extent that one can walk upon them. That you can walk with these socks and be without them getting ripped. Now, with this, what this means is, so if you're a muqim, you're a resident, you want to perform masah over your socks, these socks have to be thick enough for you to carry on your whole day or to do your daily duties whilst walking on them outside, and then they won't rip. If they meet that condition, then these are thick enough for you to perform masah. And if you're a traveler, these socks must be able to hold themselves up. They must be able to stay in the same condition without being ripped, without being torn, with them continuing their daily needs for 3 days as a musafir. Now, this is why I translated it as must be thick, because if you've got our normal flimsy socks that we wear nowadays, no chance will they handle that. No chance. And from this, it is where it's understood with the ulama, they say that because of this, the socks have to be waterproof. And when we say waterproof, we don't mean wear plastics on your feet and so on, and stuff like that, or just continuously wear leather. These days, I should have bought my ones. These days, you've got certain companies, like Dexshell and so on. They've got cotton socks, which have a thin plastic lining in between that basically are waterproof. Water will never seep into the skin, into the foot. Yeah, water will never seep into the foot. So socks as such will be permissible. To such an extent where they have to be thick, where our ulama, they say that if water was poured over it, it should stop water from reaching your skin. If the water seeps through the stitches and so on, then there's no problem about that. That is an excuse. But from the top, for example, it needs to prevent it. And the most lenient of opinions that I've come across with regards to this in the madhab is that if you're to take water in your hand and just let it drip, if these drips were to seep through the sock and get into your skin, then these socks are not good enough. basically. These socks are not permissible for you to perform masah over. Yeah, and this is this is where the khilaf comes in, or the difference of opinion between the scholars come in. The difference is not that it is not permissible to wipe over the socks, because it's permissible, but it's the socks that we wear. Is it permissible to perform or to wipe over these socks? According to the three madhabs, Imam Malik, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'ī, it's a no. If they see water, no.
Do we know why the water is not allowed to soak through? Is it because it might be contaminated water?
No, good question. This is because when we talk about socks and jawrab and so on, we have to link it back to the kind of socks that the companions used to wear during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Now, if it is known that the socks that they used to wear and so on were socks which they would go about their daily lives, and when they were traveling, they would travel with them. So these would be their sandals, or these would be their shoes and so on, with some companions. Now, the ulama have come to the conclusion to say that if this is the case, then they must have been somewhat waterproof. They must have been to such an extent or so thick that water cannot just basically seep through like that. So with regards to contamination, it's got nothing to do with contamination and so on. It's only the ulama have done basically qiyas, so analogical reasoning. They say that our socks have to meet their qualities. Because the Prophet ﷺ and the companions, they done masah over certain or over these kind of socks. So for us as well, our socks have to reach or have to meet these qualities for us to actually receive this compensation or this ability of performing masah. So some of us obviously now might say, some of the hadith or some narrations have come from the companions where it just says they just done masah over the jawrabain. Now the jawrabain in Arabic just means socks, cotton socks or wool socks. But then again, not any two cotton socks or wool socks are the same. You get thick ones and you get completely flimsy ones. Now there's some who they say even socks that the sisters wear. I don't know what they're called, leggings or stockings, one of the two, like proper thin ones. Yeah, so much so that if you're to wear them, your skin will be visible at times. Some ulama, they permit that, but our ulama, they say no. Yeah, according to the Shafi'ī madhab, we say no completely. Okay, so, and one other thing, condition which the Musannif he didn't mention, is that the socks must be pure. Yeah, they must be pure from any filth. The socks must be pure from any filth, because nowadays you could get leather socks, which leather has come from, you get snake skin these days, get so many different types of leather, isn't it? But remember we said that animal skin only becomes pure when what happens? Okay, slaughtered in the name of Allah is one thing, and tanned. Yeah, you have to tan it. So obviously if it's slaughtered in the name of Allah, so for example if you get, you're lucky you get a dead lion, for example, the whole dead lion becomes najis. But if you're able to skin the whole animal, after cleaning it and tanning it, so leaving it in the sun, it becomes pure. You can use the skin now for whatever you want. You can wear it and so on. So we mentioned like things like, Canada Goose, these kind of jackets these days, they actually use animal fur, isn't it? Or like sheep, you get sheep, I think it's sheepskin, isn't it? Coats that have sheepskin on the inside or something. If they're not slaughtered according to Sharia, these are not permissible for us to wear. I won't say they're not permissible to wear, but you cannot perform salah in them and so on, because they're classed as najis. Yeah, they're classed as najis. Now, actually, before we begin the permissible duration, just one mas'ala creeps up. What if someone is wearing 2 pairs of socks? Yeah, what if one is wearing 2 pairs of socks and the top meets the conditions of masah and the bottom one doesn't, or the bottom one meets and the top doesn't? What happens in here? So if the top one meets the conditions, then there's no problem. You intend, you're performing masah over this sock and it's valid. But if it's underneath, you have to intend just to perform masah in general, or you must intend to perform masah under the bottom sock and not the top one. So the water from the top has to seep in a bit and reach the bottom sock. You understood, yeah? And obviously this is going to happen quite a lot, I'm sure, in winter days. People are in double socks and so on. But if you wear two types of socks which both don't meet the conditions, you cannot perform masah on them. So if you wear 2 or 3 thin pairs of socks, these don't count as one thick one. You cannot perform masah over them because they are considered individually and not as a complete unit. Okay, next is the muddah, the duration. Yes, so the Musannif rahimahullah, he says, وَيَمْسَحُ الْمُقِيمُ يَوْمًا وَلَيْلَةً وَلِلْمُسَافِرِ ثَلَاثَةَ أَيَّامٍ بِلَيَالِيهِنَّ. So, first one, he says, the resident, he is permitted to perform masah over the socks for up to 24 hours. And the traveler, he has 72 hours, so 3 days, to perform masah over the socks. وابتداء المدة من حين يحدث بعد لبس الخفين. So he says rahimahullah that the duration begins at the time one's hadath finishes. We'll explain that a bit further. And then he says rahimahullah ta'ala in the last part, فإن مسح في الحضر ثم سافر أو مسح في السفر ثم أقام أتم مسح مقيم. So if he is a traveler, he does masah at home and then he travels, he will still perform masah. Even though he becomes a traveler, his masah will only be valid for 1 day because he done masah from home as a resident. Or his journey is coming to an end and he becomes a resident. Even though he done masah whilst he is a traveler, the masah period would only be classed as 1 day as well. So for example, according to the Shafi'ī, if you intend to travel for more than 4 days, you're no longer classed a traveler. Okay, so you intend to go on holiday, and you're going to Turkey for 2 weeks or 10 days. You're going to be classed as a resident according to Sharia. So you have to pray the prayers on time, you can't join the prayers and stuff like that. Yeah, so if you perform masah, for example, you intend to go somewhere for 2 days and you perform masah, you're a traveler still, right? So you've got 3 days. But then for whatever reason you decide to change to stay for another 5-6 days. Automatically you become a resident and the concession will only be for 1 day, so 24 hours. Now just touching up on the third point over here, the duration begins at the time of when one's hadath ends. Now, because obviously some might ask, does the time begin, my 24 hours does it begin when I put my socks on? Or does it begin when I break my wudu, yani from the start of breaking my wudu? Or does it begin from the start of me performing masah, for example? Now, obviously you say at the start, if one says it breaks at the start of wudu, then let's say for example, you perform masah 6 a.m. and then you go to sleep at 9 a.m. Will you say your masah starts from here 9 a.m. or from when you wake up, say you woke up at 3 p.m. Your masah will begin from when you woke up. So it's important to know is when your hadath ends, that's when your masah begin. Now this hadath, it could be just a moment, so you touch, for example, a strange woman. According to our madhab, we went through it, we said it breaks your wudu. If you even accidentally touch skin to skin with a woman, it breaks your wudu. That's the second. It could be, for example, 20 minutes, someone fainted, and then they came back. The wudu will be broken. But it could go to as high as 6 to 8 hours, where you sleep. So if someone goes to sleep, for example, you perform masah, and you've gone to sleep, when you wake up, the point you wake up, that's when your time starts. That's when your 24 hours start. So if you done masah at 6 a.m., you went to sleep at 9 a.m., for example, you took a nap, you woke up at 1 p.m., that's when your 24 hours begins. Okay, your 24 hours begin from there. Or if you had, for example, a broken sleep, you slept for 6 hours but you had a broken sleep, you need to somewhat remember what time you woke up. Because the minute you wake up from your sleep, the hadath is gone. Yeah, so your time will start from there. So it obviously will be best to always perform the masah or the wudu again from the beginning. Now we are invalidators. Before we get onto the invalidators, I want to mention a few things which the Musannif rahimahullah he didn't mention as well. Is that the one who goes on a sinful trip, so the reason of his journey is a sin. For example, a girl travelled without her husband's permission, or someone is going to do a haram business. You're going to buy and sell alcohol, or you're bringing in drugs, smuggling and stuff like that. Your journey is haram. You're going to meet someone you're not meant to meet. Haram. According to our madhab, due to this concession being given to us to make things easy for us, because you're going to do haram, you're not given this concession. You're not given this concession or this rukhsah of things being made easy for you. So if you're a traveler and you're doing something, you're going to do something haram, so you're just, smuggling something from France, for example, less than a day. When you go there, you'll be classed as, you'll only be able to do masah for 24 hours. So say you intend to go there to stay for 3 days. You're a traveler, right? 3 days, you've not intended to stay more than 4 days, so you should, technically speaking, you should be given the concession of a traveler to do masah over the socks for 3 days. But because your trip is that of a sin, you will only be able to do it for 1 day. You're only given a permission to do it for 1 day, due to your travel being that of sin. And another important point we need to mention is the da'imul hadath, the individual who is constantly in hadath. So last time we mentioned like the salasul bowl, someone that's always got drips of urine coming out. There's people with such a problem, they can't control it. Or some that have constant gas in their stomach. Or for example, the sisters in the state of istihādah, they're just constantly bleeding. With these individuals, now, are they allowed to perform masah? Yes, they are. Yes, they are allowed to perform masah, but when does their wudu break? Obviously, say someone has this problem of urine drops, or so on.
Yes, when it's more than normal for them.
Like?
So if it's not a normal amount, and if it exceeds that amount, that's when it breaks for them.
It's a good thought, but not the correct answer. According to the madhab, so let's say for example a woman in istihādah, constantly bleeding, every say 10 minutes she'll have drops of blood. After she's done wudu and she's performed masah, even when these drops of blood come out, this will not break their wudu. It will not break their masah. It will only break their masah if they do something else that breaks wudu. So for example, they go toilet, or they sleep, or they touch skin to skin with an ajnabi, and so on. So this is the permission, obviously, for those who are in this condition or in this state. And then we got to next now is coming to the end, inshallah, the invalidators of masah. So remember, we're talking about things which invalidate wiping of the socks, not things which invalidate wudu. Two different things here, Not the mubtilatul wudu, we're talking about the mubtilat of masah. So the Shaykh, he mentions, rahimullah, وَيَبْطُلُ الْمَسْحُ بِثَلَاثَةِ أَشْيَاء. So masah is invalidated, is nullified due to 3 reasons. So when 3 things happen, they will nullify the wiping over the socks. Number 1, بِخَلْعِهِمَا. Let me see. So 3 reasons. Okay, so number 1, بِخَلْعِهِمَا, taking them off. Okay, so to take off the socks. So for whatever reason you take off the sock or it falls off, I don't know, you're walking and it hooks onto something, it falls off and so on. If this happens, your masah is invalidated. Again, remember, we're not talking about wudu over here. So if that happens, what you do is you just wash your feet. If you've got wudu when the socks, actually you took the socks off, all you have to do is wash your feet in this case. You don't have to perform wudu completely. Next is when the duration finishes. When the duration finishes, inshallah I'll touch more on that in a bit. And number 3 is when ghusl becomes fard. So remember we said that wiping over the socks is only a concession. It is only a rukhsa. It is only a rukhsa for wudu. If ghusl becomes wajib on you, you must take them off and wash your feet when you're performing the shower or the bath. Now with regards to the timing finishes. When the time finishes, so say for example, someone does full wudu, puts his socks on, does not break his wudu, takes his socks off. Can this individual pray without doing anything? I'm going to repeat that. He does wudu, full wudu, yeah? Washes the feet and everything, puts his socks on. And then he doesn't break his wudu, but he takes his socks off. Can this individual just go and pray with this wudu? No. He did full wudu, so he washed his feet. And then he put his socks on. And then he did not break his wudu. And then he took his socks off. Can he pray? Yes. Yeah, he can pray. I know it's a bit probably confusing, but yes, he can pray because he's got his original wudu. Now, the second example is, say he has wudu. So he does full wudu, puts his socks on, breaks his wudu, does wudu again, but this time he does masah over the socks. And then he takes the socks off. Can he just pray? Or shall I repeat that again? Let me repeat that again. So, take myself for an example. I do wudu, full wudu, yeah? Wash my feet, everything. I put my leather socks on. Whilst I've got my leather socks on, my wudu breaks for whatever reason. And then I go and do wudu with my leather socks on and I perform masah over them. Let me finish. Yeah. So I put my socks on, I do wudu and I do masah over the socks, right? But then I don't break my wudu again, yeah? I take my socks off whilst I've done masah. Can I pray just like that? Or what do I have to do? Yeah, so he was listening from the beginning, mashallah. So all you do in that case is you just wash your feet. So if you've got wudu, in short, and you've done masah and everything, if you take your socks off, all that is needed upon you is to wash your feet. Yeah, you have to wash your feet. If your socks come off, you must wash your feet. And I've got one more point, inshallah, we'll come to an end. When the time of masah ends, so for example, the end of duration, it finishes whilst you have wudu. So let's say you've got wudu, but then now the time finishes. What would one do? Now remember, we're talking about invalidators of masah, yeah? So this end of duration makes it impermissible for you. So for example, you've gone 24 hours of wiping. I've wiped my socks at 6 a.m. 6 a.m. the next day comes. The permissibility of me wiping over my socks has finished. Yeah? But I did wudu at 5 a.m. and I've not broken my wudu. And now it gets to 6 or 5. What does one do? Take your socks off and redo wudu. Where's your mind going? Yeah, so what do you do? Yeah. No. You'll have to take your socks off and wash your feet.
Even if you've done the complete wudu?
Because your time finishes.
You don't have to do the full wudu, or you just wash it?
No, because I've done wudu. So remember, this is the time of masah finishes. The time of masah has finished. So the time of your permissibility of wiping over the socks has finished. But you still have your wudu. Now, because your feet were not washed and you've done masah over that time, then we go back to the ruling where we say you have to take your socks off and wash your feet.
Did you specify that? As in, did you say that you've done wudu, complete wudu, but over your socks? Because if you've done complete wudu, like head to your feet,
Yeah.
and then your time on the side is finished,
Yeah.
you still got wudu.
Yeah, so I'll give a practical example, yeah? Most times Fajr over here, 6 o'clock, it comes in. I wake up, do full wudu, wash my feet, put my socks on. Okay? 6 a.m. today, Tuesday. I go about with my day. Of course I'm going to break my wudu in 24 hours. Yeah? So I'm going to do wudu, and I'm going to do masah over my socks. Yeah? So say I do masah over my socks at 12 p.m. is when the first time it's the first time when I broke my wudu and I done masah at 12 p.m. Now come 12 p.m. the next day, come 11 a.m. the next day, I do wudu and I do masah. When it gets to 12 p.m., my masah time has finished, but I still have wudu in general. All I have to do is take my socks off and wash my feet. And then your time starts again. Is that clear, yeah? Or confusing? Yeah? But again, if it's confusing, always best do wudu. Go back to the asl, like we said, according to our madhab, best wash your feet. If you can. I know it's tough these days with work and so on. You don't want, Bob and John to come see you in the toilet, putting your feet in the sink. They'll probably be like, what is this Donny doing? And so on, you don't want that. But so, at work, maybe easy if you do masah. So long as your socks meet the criteria. Yeah, so long as your socks meet the criterion, or if you're wearing boots, for example, you work in a warehouse and so on, you've got boots that cover up to the ankles, you can perform masah over these. Yeah, you can perform masah over these, so long as they don't have najasa on them, of course. As long as they're pure, you can perform masah over these and you're good to go. Naam? Khair. Any questions with regards to today, or objections? Or those on Zoom as well, any questions? I'll take it as no questions.
The socks on after wudu, is there a certain time you can wait before you put on? Let's say you're going to leave the house in half an hour.
No, there's no time. Good question. So if I do my wudu now, for example, it's 9 o'clock, do my wudu, I don't have my socks on, and as long as I keep my wudu, even if I put the socks on 2 hours later, I can perform masah over them. Yeah, so there's no timing for it. As long as you put them on when you have tahara, then no problem. Yeah? Okay, khair. I think no questions then. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.